On this two-part episode, we're going to look at the importance of truth in the modern world. Hello and welcome to Dirty Christianity, the show where we investigate, explore, challenge, and get down and dirty with Christianity. My name is Alex, and I solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. The truth. Such a nebulous concept. It's so easy to claim, so easy to seek, so easy to abuse. And in a century that is often regretfully called a post-truth world, it's important that we define and understand just what truth is and why it is so critical to Christianity. In John chapter 14, verse 6, Jesus very directly tells us, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Jesus is truth. That means that the truth is Jesus. Where Jesus is, there is truth, and where truth is, there is Jesus. If we as Christians claim to seek Jesus and to know Jesus and to represent Jesus, then that means that we must do all of those same things with the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it makes us. And sure, this makes sense from a spiritual level. Jesus is truth. But let's apply this to the physical world as well. Because the Greek word used in the New Testament for truth, aletheia, doesn't distinguish between spiritual and non-spiritual worlds. Jesus is truth. Aletheia is the word that Jesus used to describe himself in the Bible, in the biblical accounts of his life. So we really should pay attention to it. Truth. Truth in what we say and how we say it. Truth in learning about history, even if we don't like where it leads us. Truth in talking about current events, even if it doesn't align with our political beliefs or worldview. Truth in seeking to understand and learn about the world around us and what is going on in it. Truth in what we share on social media. Christians should widely be known for their trustworthiness, for their honesty, for the truth of what we say. But instead, Christians are widely known as being some of the worst disseminators of misinformation, conspiracy theories, and outright disinformation and lies. Much of which, ironically, is from a genuine but misguided search for the truth. But bad leadership has misled many people into replacing truth for falsehoods. Now that's an easy thing to say, but this is Dirty Christianity. Let's get dirty and actually dive into these things instead of just talking about them. Someone might argue, if my falsehood enhances God's truthfulness and so increases his glory, why am I still condemned as a sinner? Why not say, as some slanderously claim that we say, "Let us do evil that good may result"? Their condemnation is just. Misinformation is the telling of false or inaccurate information. It's often considered unintentional to distinguish it from disinformation, which is deliberately misleading people. Misinformation is really easy to do. I myself have shared many stories on Facebook that later turned out to be fake or only partially true. And in many cases, I was called out on it by people who bothered to do the work to look into what was being said. I didn't mean to mislead people, but I saw a story or a graphic that stood out to me and I wanted to share it. And importantly, I didn't put the time or energy into actually researching and looking into what was being claimed. And to be honest, I am very appreciative of those people who called me out on it, even if it annoyed me at the time, because as a Christian, telling people inaccurate and false information should be repulsive to me. How can people trust me and listen to me about spiritual abstract things if I can't even get the physical concrete things right? And as I was sharing posts that later turned out to be untrue, I began to notice that certain pages were the biggest culprits for bad information. So I unfollowed them in some cases, and in others, I got into the habit of doing a quick search on my own to see if what they were saying was true. That's the easiest way to keep yourself from spreading misinformation and to keep your Christian witness trustworthy. Spend 5 minutes to make sure that what you're saying is actually true. And when we start seeing certain pages or certain people repeatedly say things that aren't true or are only partially true, maybe stop listening to them. And if I say something that isn't true, I have a responsibility to correct myself. If Jesus is the truth and we are spreading lies, unintentionally even, then we aren't aligned with Jesus in that moment. Speaking of lies, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. The difference between misinformation and disinformation is subtle, but important. As I mentioned earlier, misinformation is simply saying false or inaccurate things. Disinformation, on the other hand, is intentionally saying false or inaccurate things. In other words, lying. Lying in order to mislead people. It should come as no great surprise that the Bible is strongly against lying. And we all have a pretty good understanding of what lying is. Right up until we want something. I wish I could tell you that all Christian leaders, whether they are faith leaders or leaders in the secular world, are good, upstanding people. But we all know better than that. There have been countless examples of people claiming the Christian faith or genuinely believing in it, and then turning around and being the absolute worst people imaginable. People stealing, abusing, cheating, and manipulating the faithful for their own personal gain. And without a shadow of a doubt, lying. And yet, when it is people who look like us, or think like us, or give us what we want, suddenly the lying is maybe not as big of a deal. We start making excuses for them. We start defending them. And eventually we start believing them and even repeating what they say ourselves. And before we even know it, we are complicit in sin with them. Because let's be perfectly clear. Disinformation is a sin. Deliberately lying to and misleading people is sinful behavior. Romans 1:18 says, "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness." The spreading of deliberately false information is where the whole concept of the post-truth world came from. And with the rise of social media in the 21st century, it has given the people who spread disinformation a whole new level of influence that people who came before us could never have even dreamed of. And if you want there to be a people who come after us, to be able to find the truth, to be able to find Jesus, then we absolutely have to push back on this. Christians must do the hard work of aligning ourselves with truth. We need to hold our leaders, both elected and unelected, accountable when they lie. We need to be willing to listen to people who think differently than us. And we need to learn the talent of discernment and being able to realize when people are misleading us. Because we are rapidly moving towards a world with multiple and often conflicting realities. People from different walks of life are literally not able to agree on a shared basis of what facts are. Do you believe in facts or alternative facts? Do you believe what I believe, or are you just a sheep? And with two or even more competing realities, it begs a very important question. Which one is Jesus in? And we better be really careful that we align ourselves with the true one. So how do we do that? Well, for starters, and I know some of you are going to absolutely hate this, we need to start by actually doing a little research when we share something. I learned my lesson years ago about sharing stuff blindly, so I am really careful now with what I post. And believe me, I've passed up on some good stuff that I really wanted to post online, but I couldn't verify if it was true or not. There are some simple strategies that we can use to check if the information we want to share is authentic or not. And it doesn't take but a few minutes to figure it out. If you don't trust fact-checking organizations, that's fine, because the reputable ones should cite their sources, so you can look for yourselves. That's the key here. If you don't trust where some information is coming from, don't just dismiss what they're saying. Look into their sources and find for yourself if they are speaking the truth. And if they don't have sources, they're probably not. Another thing we can do is listen to the other side. If you're a Fox viewer, try CNN sometimes, and vice versa. Even if you don't agree with their position on things, understanding the other side of the story is important. Because neither side has an absolute claim on the truth, and all news is biased. Some stories conservative news media picks up on, the liberal sources don't report on. And liberal news reports on some stories that conservative sources won't touch with a 10-foot pole. I've even seen both sides cover the same story and reach polar opposite conclusions. And although every news source has a bias of some sort, there are some that are better or worse than others. When we try to educate ourselves about an issue and form an opinion, casting a wide net to gather information from multiple perspectives is very important. There are even great sites now that do all of the work for you and show you comparisons of information, who's saying what, and etc. And if you don't feel like putting in the time to form an educated opinion, then just keep your mouth shut. Because you risk spreading disinformation and sin. And you are compromising your Christian witness. And oh boy, that is a big one. Over the last 4 years, because let's be honest, a lot of this accelerated during COVID, I have heard from literally dozens of people who have told me that Christians spreading false information is the reason they left the church, or won't ever join the church now, or don't even believe in God in general anymore. Just the act of spreading misinformation has made many Christians untrustworthy. And we want people to trust us, right? Why would people trust us about an unseeable God if we keep getting the seeable reality wrong? And forget about our witness for a second. Do you think that God wants his people to be known for misleading and lying? If he did, he wouldn't have emphasized the importance of truth over and over again. And I'm not saying don't challenge the official story. Quite the opposite, actually. But challenge the official story with real evidence and facts, not made up or misrepresented stories. So where does that leave us? Obviously, there are so many other aspects of this that I can cover in one video, so I'm going to do it in two. Next time, we're going to talk about conspiracy theories, because that's the really key one that many Christians are falling for, and it's something that we absolutely have to address. So stay tuned for more, and let me leave you with one more passage. Just in case I haven't really hit the nail hard enough yet, that the Bible really cares about us being truthful. Thanks for watching.